already contributed to the world in terms of knowledge. Itu one of the first important thing. Terus yang kedua adalah trademarks. Kita perlu trademarks. Sehingga ketika kita publish di international journal ataupun di national journal, orang sudah mengetahui bahwa who is the expert of syntax, for example, because your thesis is related to the syntax. So your name will be there. Okay. And then attract interest. Sehingga it means that if you publish your article that you are master of, so it means that the others will attract and then will collaborate with you. Okay, will collaborate with you. That's the most important thing. And then the other thing is receive expert feedback. Ketika kita publish, let's say that I'm expert, my thesis is related to what we call it grammar, development of the grammar in English. And then I publish it in international journal. And of course that many experts will see my paper. And then if there is a mistake, if there is something new, so you akan dapat what we call it feedback daripada expert. For example, my latest paper, it means that from it is actually about writing and teaching writing using flipped learning. And I got the feedback from Rod Ellis. And Rod Ellis give comments and then also give something related to that and asked me to join with him to get a webinar. So this is kind of very interesting thing. If you are in English department, of course that you should know Rod Ellis, right? Who is Rod Ellis? I should know about that. And then there is independent verifications. And then the most important thing, institutions, university status, and ranking. Kalau kita lihat ranking di Southeast Asia, ya Southeast Asia, ranking pertama di Southeast Asia University adalah National University of Singapore. To the first rank. And then nomor 2 itu adalah Nanyang Technological University Singapore. And the number 3 it is University Malaya, Malaysia. But Indonesia, I think I'm not sure whether it is UGM ataupun UI ataupun UI. It is number 7 or 6, something like that, in Southeast Asia. So, and how actually the ranking will be calculated? It is based on the contributions of the university, right? One of that is the contributions of the university to the development of the science. That's why kita perlu publish paper, especially yang dikalkulate oleh QS ranking, yaitu Scopus dan WOS index. Kenapa government kita menyuruh kita publish di Scopus dan juga di WOS rank, index? Because the calculations of the world ranking university in the world is coming from the index of WOS and Scopus. So that's why, especially yang mau tamat S3 ataupun mau jadi prof, dia harus publish di what we call it this kind of index, ya Scopus dan juga WOS. Tapi untuk adik-adik yang what we call it S1, this is not very important for you yet to publish in Scopus or WOS. The most important thing is your motivations to write, and then you try it and publish, especially maybe in a local index like maybe Sinta, right? And then also DOAJ and so on, right? So this means you have been contributed to the development of the knowledge itself. Jadi saya sangat suka perkataan yang disampaikan oleh saya lupa nama, Imam apa nama dia. Kalau kamu bukan anak raja ataupun bukan anak ulama besar, maka menulislah. Okay, so this is a very strong word. Kalau kita bukan anak raja dan bukan anak ulama besar, maka menulislah. Artinya, we have to make ourselves exist in this world through writing. Ya, sejarah akan ditulis kalau kita adalah keturunan raja. Sejarah akan ditulis apa kita adalah anak-anak orang yang besar. Atau kita orang yang terkenal ataupun prime minister, presiden dan sebagainya. Tapi kalau it's not one of us, so kita menulis sehingga kita akan dikenang through our writing. Can you imagine like professor maybe in Indonesia, like Prof Silvana, like Prof Amrin, right? If they do not write a paper, if they do not publish book related to their knowledge, so it means that their knowledge, it will be stopped until to them only. So why we need to write? So it means that the knowledge will be informed to the others, will be shared to the others, will get by the others. Sehingga orang tahu ilmu itu, right? Sehingga tidak stop di sana. So that's the very important for writing. So jangan mengingat bahwa writing itu hanyalah sebagai birokrasi sahaja, but it is very important to the development of the knowledge. Okay. Okay, well, so I'm sure that there are a lot of things that what are actually the scientific writing. For me, there are 4 types of the scientific writing. For the first, we call it review paper. Critical evaluations of published literature, book, article, book chapter. You review a book, you review an article, and you review a book chapter, and you publish it. This is what we call it review paper. Many journals that index it in Scopus and WOS, especially maybe Q1, Q2, they accept review paper. Okay, they accept review paper. Like if you know, like maybe Asian TEFL journal, it is Q1, so they accept review paper. So you just review a book, right? It's just like maybe 5 to 7 pages, and then you submit it, and if you just accept it, and it will be published. So you don't need to do a research on it. It's just only to review a paper. This is one of the scientific writing as well. Okay, number 2, we call it technical paper. A technical paper, this is what we call it research-based article. Research findings documented in journal or proceeding. Structure of the technical paper contains new results or findings of a study, introductions, method, results, and discussions. Normally we call it IMRAD. IMRAD. Okay, so biasa yang kita publish di jurnal, dia adalah research-based article. We call it technical paper. So kita buat research, findings itu kita akan convert menjadi article, and then article kita publish di salah satu jurnal. This is what we call it technical paper. And then ada lagi yang kita sebut dengan proceeding or extended abstract. Okay, 200 kepada 300 words, tables and figures in 2 pages format. This one is depends on the what we call it rules and regulations of the committee of the conference, or maybe the editors of the proceedings. Sometimes they need like not only the extended abstracts, but they need what we call it 1,000 to 2,000 words. Introductions, content, and conclusion and summary. This is what we call it proceedings, right? And then the other thing is book chapter. Much like writing a review paper, but in book chapter, will write a specific topic from the publisher or editorial board. Okay, book chapter. So normally book chapter also it's acceptable, right, to be published in what we call it as a scientific writing. It can be from review paper, and it can be from technical paper. It depends on the editors as well. Because many book chapters now, and they are already been what we call it indexed in Scopus in WOS as well. So maybe we are not familiar yet with the book chapters, but book chapters is one of the big in Malaysia. what we call it in Indonesia cum laude. I mean, sorry, cum. Kalau di Malaysia kita sebut dengan kredit untuk kita naik pangkat, untuk kita what we call it naik dari menjadi profesor. So book chapter is one of the requirements sebab dia contribute sangat banyak. Okay, so those are the four scientific writing that we have known: review paper, technical paper, proceedings, and book chapter. Okay, as today is actually scientific writing, it's impossible for me to explain one by one, but within these 2 hours, but we are going to the research-based article, what we call it technical paper, right? So if you see that here, jika lihat di sini, structure of the research-based article, the abstracts, introductions, literature review, methodology, result or findings, discussions, conclusions, recommendations, and references. So those are the content or maybe the structures of the research-based article. Di mana-mana journals yang dia itu research-based, dia akan follow this structure. It means they start from the title, abstract, introductions and literature review, methodology, results and findings, discussions, conclusions, and references. Di sini saya letak introductions and literature review, dia bersamaan satu garis. It means that some of the articles, they put it together. Some of the journals, it means that inside of the introductions, there is literature review. So tidak ada lagi subheading literature review. So the literature review, they put it inside of the introductions. So this is some of the journals, not all the journals, but most of the journals will do the same thing. Yang pastinya akan ada methodology. Methodology cannot be removed from the contents as well. Okay, and then there is result of findings and discussions, and I put it together as well because some of the articles they put it together, result and findings in one subheadings. Okay, and then conclusions and recommendations and references. So this is the structures of the research-based article. Okay, kalau adik-adik sudah menulis thesis ataupun skripsi, ya pastinya akan ada title, terus akan ada abstract, right? Ada introductions, ada literature review ataupun kajian pustaka, ya. Ada metodologi, ada temuan ataupun kita tidak meletakkan data, tapi kita letakkan adalah result ataupun findings. Kalau di skripsi mungkin kita letak data, ya, di data. But di sini kita letak findings. Apa perbedaan antara data dengan findings nanti kita akan discuss. Okay, and then there is a discussions. And then of course there is a conclusions and recommendations. Okay, but recommendations, it is just only what we call it suggestions. It is optional. Kita mau tulis recommendation atau tidak, it is not compulsory. Yeah, but maybe few of the articles will ask you to write down the recommendations, and references is a must. Okay, well, so I think the structures will be, I think is already well known and you have known about that. So authors should follow the guidelines provided by the targeted journal. So each of the journal, they have their own guidelines on how are you going to, what we call it, to write down the articles. From the structures on how are you going to write down. So it means that they have their own guidelines. So you have to refer to the guidelines for each journal. World Journal of English Language, dia akan memiliki guidelines, different guideline dengan TESOL International Journal. Mereka akan memiliki what we call it, guidelines yang berbeda. Tetapi structures-nya, basically mereka akan sama. Okay. Okay, well, for the first is title. Saya yakin kita sudah, what we call it, if you are writing a skripsi now, mungkin sudah ada judul masing-masing, right? Tapi kita harus paham, judul di artikel, format dia adalah berbeza dengan yang ada di skripsi. Yang di jurnal dengan yang skripsi pasti dia akan berbeda. Ya, difference. Normally kita akan memiliki title something like this. So before that, I have to inform that title, it means that simple language to understand the intention of study in the first reading. Okay, simple language to understand the intentions of study in the first reading. So normally we have the title maybe is very complete. For example here, the effect of lived learning instructions on DME students' writing achievements at University College of Yayasan Pahang, Taman Gelora, Kuantan, Pahang, Malaysia. Right. Ini normally judul kita punya what we call it skripsi. Okay, the effect of this method to the students' achievement di sekolah mana, lengkap dengan nama sekolah dan juga daerah. Right. So this is actually our skripsi title. So we cannot put this kind of title when we are going to publish it in international journal or in journal itself. We have to convert the title. So what should be? The titles do not exceed 2 lines in print. Use the keywords prominently. Biasanya as an editor, I have been an editor for journals more than 10 years. We like that what we call it, the title should be not more than 2 lines. Tidak lebih daripada 2 lines. 2 baris. Ataupun lebih senang kita sebut adalah 15 words. 15 kosakata. Okay, not more than 15 kosakata. Kalau ini kita lihat adalah sangat lengkap. It's very, very complete. Even the name of the city is there. Right. Actually, we don't need that kind of. So this is good for our thesis, but not for the international or national or maybe local journals. Okay, if you see that number 2, titles do not normally include numbers, acronym, rarely use abbreviations. Okay, kita tidak letak nomor dan juga acronyms ataupun abbreviations, singkatan yang tidak well known, yang tidak biasa digunakan. Dalam English biasanya kita gunakan ada TESOL, right? Itu common known. Ada EFL, that once everybody know already. Everybody knows about that. But if you put like, for example, DME, I'm sure that all of you also don't know what is DME. Only me knows about that, as I'm the one who write that. So it means that if it is not common known, nobody knows about that, don't put it in the title. Okay, so you have to put the longest name of that. Okay, and then they should include sufficient detail for indexing purpose, but be general enough for readers outside the field of appreciate what the paper is about. So it means that we have to choose actually a very related words to your what we call it field. So everybody when they want to read it, so they know exactly what is the article is about. Okay, if you see that number 2, next. Okay, so I revised this title to become the effect of lived learning instructions on diploma students' English writing achievements in Malaysia. Okay, this is quite good, but it still can be edited. The effect of lived learning instructions on ESL learners' writing achievement. Okay, so, and the last, when we finally want to publish this article, the title will be Effect of Lived Learning Instructions on Tertiary English Learners' Writing Achievement. So why we put tertiary English learners' writing achievement? So this is the role of the word choices. Dia adalah peran pilihan kata yang baik. Kalau kita lihat di sini adalah diploma. So if you see that diploma, they are from tertiary learners. It means that from university. So if you put ESL, there is no wrong with that. But the language choice is not really suitable because ESL is not only for university students. Maybe they coming from SMA ataupun SMP, right? So that's why the language choice is very important. That's why we choose tertiary. It means that it's coming from university. So when you see that this is the title of your what we call it thesis or maybe skripsi, kita akan transfer dia menjadi the effect of flipped learning instructions on tertiary English learners writing achievement. So how are we going to transfer that? So you have to know the rules of the title. So this is it. Titles do not exceed 2 lines. Titles do not normally include numbers. They should include sufficient detail, right? So you can try to find out, to familiarize, to internationalize the title so that it will attract the reader's attentions, right? So if I put this title, the first title in my article, so maybe what we call it, the readers outside of Malaysia will not be interested, okay, will not be interested to read my article because it is for Kuantan Malaysia only. But when I put this, the effect of flipped learning instructions on tertiary English learners writing achievements is more general, and then the others also can accept the my article, and of course it will what we call it, attract the other readers from outside of Malaysia. Okay. Okay, well, so this is about the title. I'm sure that you have some knowledge related to the title. This is actually what we call it, choose which title do you think is appropriate and effective for English language studies. The impact of personality, extrovert and introvert on university learner speaking achievement. What do you think about this? Okay, this is suitable or appropriate for the English language studies. And if you see here, using lexical profiling tools to enhance lexical richness, yes. And then if you see here that improving student speaking achievement through CLT method in SMA Negeri 1 Medan, Indonesia. This is more to the skripsi title, not to the what we call it, more to the journal or scientific publications that we are going to do. Okay. And then this one also portraits of Indonesian university graduates of English and non-English departments viewed from English proficiency. And the influence of foreign language on Mandailing language in Indonesia. This is not also related to. And then new metaphors in Indonesian's English mass media. So this one is yes, but maybe many arguings that why this one appropriate, why that one is not appropriate. So it means that you have to see the language choice. You have to see as well that the rules that I have given to you before. Okay. Okay. Setelah title, langkah kedua yang akan dilihat, yang kita harus perhatikan, it is about the abstract. Adalah abstract. Abstract itu secara general, konten dia adalah introductions. It is optional, but the most important things coming from objective, method, result, conclusions, and recommendations. If you see here that introductions and recommendations, it is optional in your own abstracts. So the most important key that you should put in your abstract, it is objective, method, result, and conclusion. Why we need to do this kind of? Because dalam abstracts, each of the journal, they have their own rules and regulations. But mostly, they will say not more than 300 words. Tidak lebih dari 300 kata. Ketika kita menulis the abstracts, kita start with the objective, and then kita letak methodology, and after that, kita letak results, and after that, conclusions. If already within 300 words, so you don't need to put the introductions and recommendations. Tapi, you dah menulis start from objective until the conclusion, still 200 words. So you can put introductions on the top. So it will be reach to 300 words. Okay, but if you write down objective until the conclusions, dia sudah sampai 300 kata. So you don't need to introduction and recommendation. So that's why it depends on the journal. If they ask you to write down 500 words, so it's easy for you to write all. But if it is just like maybe 250 to 300 words, so you have to consider this strategy. Okay. So for the first should be informed, indicative, and reflects the main story of the article. Okay, so it means that you have to summarize all the things that in your abstracts from the introduction until to the conclusion. Because when the readers or the editors read your abstracts, they have already known what is actually the content of your own article. Okay, and the only chance you have to get the readers' attention, because some of the readers, they will not go through all the articles. So the first thing for me as well, if I want to read an article, I will go to the title and abstract first. And after that, if I'm interested too, then I will go to the content. Tapi kalau saya tidak tertarik untuk membaca start from the abstract, so I will leave it. Okay. Should be concise and accurate, of course lah. It means that harus accurate. It means that apa yang ada di dalam content, it should be as well similar the things that you put in your abstract. Jangan nanti di content itu you menggunakan qualitative research, but in your abstract you call it quantitative research. So it means that it's not in line. So you should be accurate. Okay. Gives the quick idea of the content. Yes, this is a quick idea of the contents. Through the abstract, we have already known what is actually inside of your article. What and how was done, it means that the methodology, we see that what methodology that are you using. It is what we call experimental research, and it is action research. We have known it in your abstract. Provide a brief conclusions. Yes, it should be there is a conclusion. Okay. I generally write abstract at the end. It means that biasanya kalau saya menulis, if I'm writing an article, I will start with the title. Why do I need to write down the first is the title? Because the title is a guideline for me to go through with the content. And after that, I will write down start from the introductions and literature review, methodology, right? And then also goes to the findings and discussions, and then goes to the conclusion. And if I have done from the title until to the conclusion, then I will write the abstracts. Even though we put the abstracts exactly after the title, but we should write the abstracts at the end. Okay, because all the informations that you need to put in your abstract, it is in your content. Okay, so I think it is clear. So the details informations must be present in the body text, not in the abstracts, right? So it means that it's just only the teaser actually that we put in your abstracts, not what we call it, the details of the content. The content is supposed to be in the body of the articles itself. Okay, so this is about the abstract. I'm sure that some of you that confused what's supposed to be put in the abstract. Yeah, of course that you will be confused because you don't know exactly what is the content of your article. So you should know the content first, everything done, then you write down the abstract. So you can see the object, you can see the methodology, you can see the result, and you can see the conclusion. Then it will be easy for you to write down the abstract. Okay. Okay, well, next. So this is the example of the abstracts that I have written and then published it actually in TESOL International Journal. So you can see this is the introductions, and then this is the objective, and this is the method, and this is the result, and this is the conclusion, and this is the recommendations. So I can take it from the content. So I put it as an abstract. So the applications here is just only objective, method, result, and conclusions. But because of the editor asked me actually to complete these abstracts in about like 500 words. So that's why I put introductions and also recommendations. So that's why I'll talk to you. It means that it depends on the guidelines of the article. Okay, so title, abstracts, and now is introduction. While you are writing an introductions, Right, you should consider this content. For the first, that in your introduction, it should be there is a background of study. Okay, background of study. Background of study, it means that you start with elaborations of topic and expectations. Okay, so it means that you start with the elaborations of the topic. Let's say that your topic is about deep learning and improving the students' achievement in writing through the flip learning, for example. So it means that your topic is related to writing and then also flip learning. So elaborate first. And what is your expectations in writing? Okay, what is your expectations in writing for the students? It means that they should pass this, they should, according to the regulation from the national competencies, they should pass about 70%. Okay, from the TESOL guidelines as well, the students should be able to write down what based on your syllabus. So it means that the expectations that you put it in your background. Okay, and after that, there is a problem statement. Problem statement, it means that you jot down what are actually the issues that you are going to solve in your, what is the issues coming in your research, and then on how are you going to solve it. So it means that reality and expectations do not match. That's the things that you need to jot down in your problem statement. Why and how they do not match, so you should state it in your problem statement. It means that, okay, so your expectations is the students should pass 70% of the score. Let's say from 100, they should pass 70, but most of the students, they did not pass 70. It means they just got the score like 65, 50, and blah, blah, blah. Of course, this is an issue, right? So that's the reality. So it means that the reality and then the expectations do not match. And how do they do not match? What are the issues? Why do they not match? Maybe it's coming from the methodology, it's coming from the teachers, or maybe it's coming from the media, or it's coming from the assessment. It depends, right? So that's why. But if your title is related, giving a new methodology to improve their writing, so it means that you have to go through with the methodology. So it means that you have to step down, say that what are the problems is related to the methodology. Maybe the methodology is not updated, it's not upgraded, so it means the students do not follow and so on, right? So it means that you have to write down the problem statement, so it will be clear for the readers and for the editors as well. And after that, you will see there is objective. Kan ada objective, the purpose of your study. So setelah problem statement, you akan letak purpose of your study, the main and specific. Okay, so the objective of the research is to improve the students' achievement in writing through or using uplift learning. So this is related, right? Start from the background to the problem to the objective, they are related. And after that, you will have research questions. Okay, what do you want to find or study, measure, formulated from the objective and not necessary for experimental research or using hypothesis. Okay, so research questions is actually, this is the things that we need to answer in your discussions through the data findings. Okay, so the research question should be formulated from the purpose of your study. So that's why the objective should come first, and after that, go to the research questions. And then, kalau you buat adalah experimental research, the effect of blah, 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 normally we don't have research questions. You will have hypothesis, right? You akan ada hypothesis. Kalau you ada hypothesis, so you don't need research questions. Okay, hypothesis is something like, mungkin in research methodology we'll learn about the hypothesis and how are you going to formulate your hypothesis, right? Hypothesis yang diterima dan ditolak, H0 dan H alternative. So that should be there in your hypothesis if you are doing experimental research, and you don't need research questions. But if you want to put research questions as well and you have hypothesis, there is no an issue. But normally To make it simple for me, for degree level, you don't need research questions. It's enough for your hypothesis. Okay, so this is actually the pictures, the content of the introductions. Ini adalah isi dari introductions. If you follow this kind of, it will be easy for you to understand the content, and then also to go through with the literature review, and then also the object later, the objective or the methodology in your research. Okay, so it means at least that you should have background of the study, problem statement, objective, and research questions. Maybe in your skripsi, you will have like manfaat ataupun the benefits of the research, right? The significance of the research. That ones you don't need to put it in your scientific writing if you want to publish it in article or in a journal. So those are the contents that we need to follow. Okay. Next, literature review. Some of the journals, they requires literature review, but some of them you should include it in your own introductions. Normally, if it is included in the literature in introductions, the literature review will be placed under the problem statement. Literature review, because the problem statement is coming from the literature review that had been done. The research, previous research that had been done by others that related to your research, then you put it there and you find out the gate. Right? That's the functions of the literature review, and you see the problem there. That's why we call it problem statement. But if some of the journals maybe requires, there is a subheading of the literature review. So these are what we call it, the requirements for you to write down the literature review. For the first, that is mostly theory and previous study. This is the thing that we need to review. Okay, you have to review the theory. You have to review their findings, or maybe the previous study or the previous research by others. So the first thing that you should know is about 20 recent studies. So that's why kalau orang menulis skripsi ataupun menulis articles, mereka harus banyak membaca. We have to read more and more. At least you write down 20 recent studies related to your research. If your research is related to flipped learning and then also academic writing achievement, so please read that kind of article that related to your study, at least 20 journals, for example, 20 articles or books. Okay. And then not more than 5 years since the article papers were published. So trylah to find out the articles atau buku yang sudah publish. Kalau ini adalah 2023, so it means 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019, dan 2018. So try to find out the journals that related to your study. It is 5 years. Dari 2018 sampai 2022. So that's what we call it. We need a recent literature review to find out the gap. Okay. And then from high impact journal. So try to get from the high impact journal. High impact journal, it means that the journal has already been indexed in. For example, maybe in Indonesia sudah Sinta 2 dan Sinta 1. Okay. Kalau misalnya dari international sudah di-index di ERA ataupun Excellence in Research Australia atau di Scopus dan juga di WOS, World of Science. So try to find out the articles yang sudah dipublish di what we call it the index ini. Kalau di Malaysia kita menggunakan MySite, tapi kalau di Indonesia itu ada Sinta ya. Mungkin that's a different things. Okay, so try to find out. So kenapa harus dari high impact journals? Supaya it means that the content that you are reviewing, it is actually based on the current studies and well known in the world. So you tak bereference kepada yang jurnal yang abal-abal, tapi jurnal yang memiliki high impact dan quality tinggi. Okay, so how are you going to write down the literature review? That's the most important thing. So for the first that you have to see adalah inconsistency, okay, relations, contradictions, and then gap. This is the most important thing in literature review. Pertama adalah inconsistency. You have to review the articles from A, from B, from C, from D. Let's say ada 5 artikel related. You have to see apa yang tidak konsisten. What is the inconsistency? For example, maybe the subjects of the research. A, subjects-nya adalah perempuan saja, for example. B, subjects ataupun participants of the research adalah lelaki saja. So di sana ada inconsistency. Nah, metodologi yang digunakan mungkin berbeda. Di sana menggunakan kualitatif, di sini menggunakan kuantitatif. So you see the inconsistency. If you find out the inconsistency of the research, then you see the relations to your research as well. So it means your research is more to the methodology of teaching and then also academic writing. So di mana sebenarnya yang related to the inconsistency itself. And after that, you see the contradicts between yours and the others. Contradicts, right? So it means there is no new findings that related to that. It means that kalau you dah temukan gap yang belum ada finding dari 5 tahun lepas sampai sekarang, so this is what we call it gap of research. Ada gap di sana yang belum ditemukan. So that's why we call it, this is the novelty of your research. Inilah yang terbaru dari research kamu. So when you find that, so it means that your research is very interesting and then there is a gap and there is a new things that there is novelty, then of course that international journal wants to publish your article. Okay, so this is how the methodology or the strategy on how we're going to put the literature review in our articles or scientific article. Okay, next is related to the research methodology. My experience since 2012 as an editor, there are many problems in the research methodology, right? Especially the papers coming from Indonesia. To be honest, ini adalah suatu yang masalah yang mungkin perlu di what we call it, you need to sit down together for the expert in methodology untuk mengeluarkan satu guidelines ataupun satu buku that related to research methodology. The definitions of the qualitative and then also the practical of the quantitative still many confusing there in the papers from Indonesia. So we need to be careful about that. So to make it easy for you in the methodology, I think you just need to know the contents, what is actually the articles, so the journal or the editors requires for us to put it in the methodology. So for the first is the sample. It's very important. Who are the sample of your research? If it is quantitative, of course, there should be a sample. Maybe for what we call it for the qualitative, maybe there is a audience for that. Okay, if you see that the sample should be descriptions and technique of the selecting the sample or participants, you are using probability or non-probability. So it means that on how are you going to take the sample is very important. You cannot just randomly A, B, C, D, no. Right, it means that even if you are doing random sampling, right, you should explain on how are you going to take the random sampling and why you need to do random sampling, why random sampling is suitable to your methodology. So it means that the sample that you are taking is very important, the way you are going to take them. How, right? You should elaborate in your methodology. Who are they, right? And how many of them, and why you need only 30, and why only them? So you need to describe it in your sample. Okay, next, material and instrument. You need to elaborate what are the materials and instrument that you are using in your own research. For example, you are using what we call a questionnaire. The questionnaires that you are applying, you should describe it. And how many parts in the questionnaire you should explain, and what are the materials that you are using in your methodology. For example, you are using teaching aid, syllabus, and so on. So you have to books as well. So you have to explain in your methodology. So technique, teaching aids, questionnaire, tests, research tool, validity and reliability of the instrument. So all those things that you need to put it in your methodology. Because I think all those things already been in your skripsi. Tapi once you are going to write down for that to publish in a journal, you should write it again in the other way, okay, in a scientific way, and then put it as it is. Okay, data collection procedure. How do you collect the data? It's very important. And how many data that you need to. So prepare to the collecting data step 1, step 2 until to the end. So as a reader or editors, we see the clear picture of your getting the data. So this is in methodology, in the data collection procedure. And then the last, it should be clear enough for us actually technique of analyzing the data. For example, for quantitative, you are using t-test, right? Maybe experimental research, or you are using ANOVA, or you are using regressions. But for qualitative, for example, you are using Atlas TI. But if you are not using software, right, maybe you are using a standard or concept from one of the theory. Let's say maybe SFL, right? Maybe common known in SFL, maybe in discourse analysis, and so on. So you should explain or elaborate the technique of analyzing the data itself on how. So it means as a reader, we know exactly what you do in your analysis. Okay, so this is in methodology. So it means in your methodology should be clear enough the sample, materials and instrument, data collection procedure, and technique of analyzing the data. So this 4 is very important for you in your research methodology. Okay. Okay, so next that related to it is results or findings and discussions. When we are going to, if you are clear enough about introduction, and then also the objective of your research and methodology, so it means you just follow that, your finding will be there. Okay. So result and finding presentation. So normally what we see actually in your research that related to what we call it academic writing, especially in academic journal. So for the first, that result finding presentations. Present clearly the result of findings from calculations to analysis. So you don't need to put the data, but you need to put the findings. For example, the improvement, right? Improving the students' achievement using flipped learning, for example. So it means that we need the findings of the improvement, start from the test 1, test 2, test 3, for example. Right? So you don't need to put A got 70, B students got 90. You don't need to put that in your findings. That once you can just put it as appendix. But the findings from test 1 to test 2, the difference, right, between test 2 and test 1, test 2, that's the finding that we need to put in your result to present it there. So test 1, the difference means is 90. For example, the average of the score, the mean of the score is 90. Test B, for example, the test is 95. So you can see the difference between test 1 and test 2. The improvement is 0.5, for example. So that's the things that we need to put in your research finding, not the data. Okay, all tables, image, figures are properly cited in the text, APA format. So you have to follow on how to put table, the numbering of table, on how to put the table, right? Should follow the APA format for most of the article. Okay, so APA format, you can just Google it up, APA formats for scientific writing. So you know how to put the table. So normally for the tables, you don't need the column. So you need only the row. So that's kind of things that we need to be detailed on how you're going to present your findings. And the next, critically interpret the principles, relationship, and generalization shown by the result. So you need to know how to interpret the data. For example, if the result from the SPSS is 0.02, right, 0.02. So it is significant effect or it is not significant effect. So you should know about that. So It means when you get the result, so you know actually that on how to interpret the findings, whether you succeed to get it or not. So it means that what is the difference, so you know how exactly to interpret the data. So it means you have to study on how to use the calculation if it is in the quantitative research, and what is actually the we call the conclusion that you need to put if it is you are using the qualitative study. Okay, so this is in your result of finding. Next, in discussions, there are many issues actually during the discussions, right? Ketika menulis discussions di dalam artikel, dia hanya mengulang daripada finding. That's a big issue. Tapi actually, what is the most important thing from the discussions is, for the first, that present the evidence to support the result analysis by citing the earlier research findings or results. So it means that you have got your findings. So in discussions, you find out other evidence that related to, that support your findings. According to A, similar dengan finding saya. Is similar with my finding, blah, 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 blah. Cited what they have done. Okay, and then compare your result to published result. So your result yang you dah temukan tu, right? And then compare with the others, yang previous findings, compare. Ada tak perbezaan? Ada tak kesamaan? Kalau you compare, it means that you have to see the similarity and you have to see the difference and the contradiction, right? So it means when you compare, you show that this is actually the new findings from your own. And after that, answer the research questions or hypothesis confirmations. So di sini you have to answer the research question tadi yang you letak dalam introduction. Adakah meningkat apa nama dia, what we call it, the students writing skill or not? So you have to answer that in your discussion. Apakah hipotesis itu diterima atau tidak? You have to confirm in your discussions. Okay, and then the last, in discussions, do not make statements unsupported by your data or your findings. Jadi jangan letak what we call it statement yang tidak ada support. For example, you say that this methodology is very good for the students in learning, speaking, and listening. Padahal your research is about the improvement of the students' writing skill using flipped learning. Your data is only writing, but you state that in your discussions, this methodology, teaching methodology, is good for learning, speaking, and blah blah blah, and there is no support from your finding. So that kind of is very dangerous. You cannot put it in your discussions. Okay, clear enough? So the most important thing in your research finding and discussions, you know how to present it, right? On how to put it in your paper, and then you know to interpret, and you know to discuss on how to compare with the others, the finding research, and to answer the research questions and hypothesis confirmations. Okay, this is in your result and findings. Okay, next, conclusions and references. Conclusions, how the objectives of the study are accomplished, or what should now be accepted as established knowledge, then suggest future research for future improvement. So in your conclusions, you have to go back to your objectives. What are the objectives? Your objective already accomplished or not? So you have to state it in your conclusion, right? And then what should now be accepted as established knowledge? So you should confirm it in your conclusion. What is the new novelty things that from your research? So you have to put it in your conclusions. Okay, and then suggest future research if needed. It means you have to put recommendations. Future research, maybe as this research already been approved through the flipped learning, the students' achievement in writing is improved. So we suggest that to do it in other skills, for example, like speaking, listening, and others. Okay. Or maybe you can suggest as well to the wider samples. They say that you say the sample is only men, so or maybe only females. So for the next researcher, so maybe can extend to males as a samples of the research. So can be many things. It depends on your study. Okay, references should follow the American Psychological Association format with 20 good quality references required with Crossref DOI. At least 10 should have DOI. So normally, most of the journals using APA format, but it's not all actually, but mostly. Some of them may be using MLA, Vancouver, it depends. But the things that you need to for references that see the guidelines of the journals, but when you are using APA, so follow the APA. So the manual book, you can find it in internet, in Google. So try to read, because we don't have time to explain one by one on how to write down the references, right? Okay, so next, this is just an example for the 7 editions. This is the latest for the 7 editions in journal. Okay, so you see that the author or surname initial, for example, Almeida RA, okay, Dickinson's J, Mayberry MT, Bedcock and JC, and Bedcock the 2010. It means that the surname first and then the initial. For example, my name is Dedi Sanjaya. So it means that coming from Sanjaya, comma, D. The first name should be the first letter only. It is D. So it means Dedi Sanjaya. So you should down Sanjaya, comma, D. And then coming with the years in bracket. When the article is published is 2010. Right? And after that, coming with the article title, sentence case. Visual search, performance, blah, 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 until to the end, the title of the article. But the first letter, the first word, and the first letter of the word is just only capital, but there is no. Okay, but after semicolon here, so it means that you have to put T as a capital as well, but there is no capital. And then you come up with the journal title. What is the name of the journal? So Neuropsychologia, for example. What journal of English language? So that one, it should be in italic. Okay, capitalized in each word, and then also you should put it in italic. Italic, it means that miring, yeah. And then 48 is the number of the volume, and 14 is the number of the issue. So 48 kita tahu adalah ini volume ke-48 dan 14 adalah issue number. Dan 4117 sampai 4124, this is the page range. It means that halaman. Halaman ke berapa sampai halaman berapa, dan ini adalah DOI, Digital Object Identifier, formatted as URL. Okay, so this is how to write down the references from journal in 7 editions APA. So sangat banyak sebenarnya isu ketika kita melihat references in one of the article, because mostly they are transferring the articles from skripsi, dari tesis ataupun dari disertasi kepada artikel jurnal, and then they confuse on how to transfer as well the references. Mungkin di what we call it di university, kita follow Indonesian's guideline. Tapi ketika kita mau publish di jurnal, kita harus follow APA. There is ada perbedaan antara guidelines di university dan juga APA. So those are the things that we need to know about that. Okay, the next is books, maybe from books. So untuk yang 7 editions APA sama juga dengan penulisan nama, yaitu use surname first baru initial name. Kalau seperti yang saya sampaikan, nama kita adalah Dedi Sanjaya, maka Sanjaya, D, dan juga tahun di dalam brackets, dan juga title of the book. Well-being in doctoral education, insight and guidance format from students, Springer. So direct kepada nama publisher. So tidak ada lagi kota ataupun city yang perlu kita letak. Okay, so kita letak saja terus the name of the publisher, Springer. Kalau misalnya ada University Samudra Press, so you can put University Samudra Press, the name of the publisher. And then DOI, kita perlu ada DOI. Itu kalau dia ada DOI. Kalau tidak ada DOI, mungkin kita lihat di sini ada juga contohnya sama penulisan, cuman di akhir itu hanya sampai kepada nama publisher Harvard University Press tanpa DOI. So this is from book. Mungkin kalau kita lihat in your thesis or in dissertations, kalau dari buku, it means that you need to put the name of the city and the publisher, right? Tapi kalau untuk the 7 editions for APA, you don't need to put it. Okay, so this is actually the content of your articles. So the strategy that you need to understand to write down from the title, abstracts, introductions, literature review, methodology, findings, discussions, conclusion, and references. But inside of the content, there is what we call it style of language. Okay, style of language, because the style of language, when you are doing your proposal, seminar proposal, when you are doing that, proposal of thesis, you are using future tense because you are going to do that. Once you got the findings, when you are going to write down these dissertations, mostly you are going to convert it become past tense, right? So similar thing in your dissertation, so in your articles, so you should follow the language style. So those are the language style that I have already, what we call it, summarize, right? And then you can follow this. For example, the introduction, mostly in the introductions, you are going to use present and present perfect, right? A factual description of the study. So this is we need present, factual descriptions of the study, right? And present perfect. And assertions that previous studies are not sufficient or not valid findings have been found. So it means that in the problem statement, if you want to review from the previous study, so you put it in the present perfect, right? And literature review, you will have it present and past. The knowledge is generally accepted as general truth, right? And reference how the study was conducted as a basis to support the current study. So it is in the literature review. And in your methodology, normally you will put past and present. Past, why you need past tense there? A discussion on how the data were collected and analyzed, because it's already been done. How do you collect and analyze the data? It means that the activity is already been done. So it means that you have to put it past tense. And you put it present as a general descriptions of research instruments and materials. Right? When you describe the instrument and materials, of course, it should be in present tense. So normally in methodology, based on the needs, it means that you are going to use past tense and present tense. And then in findings, you will have as well past tense and present tense. Why you need past tense? Reporting the findings obtained in the study. If you want to report something, of course, that you are using past tense. So when you are reporting the data, you're reporting the findings, so it means you are going to use past tense. So why you need present tense? A reference to the illustrations. When you are going to illustrate the graph, the table, the diagram, so you are using present tense. So figure 1 illustrates blah, 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 blah. So it means that you are using present tense. So this is the tenses that you are using in your findings and results. And discussions, right? In the discussions itself, so you will have present tense. Yes, and interpretations of the findings. When you interpret the findings, so you are using discussions. Okay, to answer the research questions, you are using present tense. To confirm the what we call it, the hypothesis as well, you are using present tense. Okay, in the conclusions, you will have present tense, past tense, simple future, or modal auxiliary. Why you need that present tense is critical conclusion of the study. But when you criticize all the things happening there, you need present tense. And then past tense to summarize the main findings. Okay, what is the main findings in your research? So it means that you are using past tense in your conclusion. And then why you need simple future? So it means that if you are making a recommendation or suggestions, to make suggestion and discuss major implications. So it means you are using simple future tense. And then abstracts follow the tense used above. So it means that because abstract actually, we are taking it from the introductions until to the conclusion. So when you are summarize that and you are going to write down the abstract, so you have to follow the content of the abstract. So based on the things that from the introduction to conclusion. So follow the tenses that we're using inside. Okay, mungkin sudah jelas. This is actually the language style that you need in your article. To know clear what is present tense, what is present perfect, of course, you should go back to your own grammar study. Okay. So maybe this is the example that in introduction, English is a language used widely. We are using is, are, this is present tense, right? In introductions as well, we are using has, sold, present perfect. It means that coming from the previous study, literature review, we are using present tense, right? As a general truth. And then we are using what we call it past tense that has already been done, right? And methodology. So those are the examples. Until to conclusion. Okay, so when you are writing your articles, I'm sure that maybe you are still confused sometimes that using which tenses that I'm going to use. So for the first, in the first tense, don't think about it. So just write first, everything that write by your own, and later on, after you have finished your article, then you check again the language. If you are not confident enough, right, to what we call it, to see your grammar and everything's there, please ask someone to proofread your article. So that's why I always suggest authors or maybe lecturers as well, even though they are coming from English lecturer, try to ask someone who are capable to proofread your article. I myself, after finishing my article, I will ask someone to proofread my article. Even though that maybe I have been writing an article, many articles, but I still ask someone to proofread my article because I'm afraid that sometimes that we cannot find out our mistake, as I'm the one who write the articles, but others, of course, that will see. Okay, so that's the very important thing from that. Okay, so hopefully that you are still with me, and this is a lot of things that actually that I need to share with you. Banyak lagi sebenarnya hal-hal yang perlu saya share, tapi saya akan, karena waktu kita tinggal setengah jam lagi, nanti kita akan ada discussions dalam 15 minutes maybe, but I need to inform a little bit related to the editors and reviewers view, sehingga kita paham on how are we going to strategize agar paper kita diterima baik di national ataupun di international publisher. Okay, mungkin kita sudah sama-sama tahu, we have known actually the flow of the publications. Jadi publications itu tidak simple, especially for article journal. Kita tidak boleh, kita harapkan kita submit hari ini, minggu depan sudah publish. No, it's not the way of the scientific article. That's why kita sebut scientific article. Scientific article, it means that there is a process, there is a systematic way on how are we going to publish that. Okay, so if you see here that once you submit your article, maybe some of them using online, using email, using quick submission, whatever is that, at the most important thing that you submit your article. So yang pertama kali dilihat adalah there is a preliminary review. Dalam preliminary review, siapa yang mereview? Itu adalah chief editor of the journal. Siapa chief editor, dia akan review. Apa yang dia review? Yang pertama adalah dia lihat scope of the articles. For example, your article is related to English language teaching. Sementara jurnal tersebut adalah linguistics. Mungkin dia lihat scope-nya tidak sesuai. Okay, and then dia akan lihat cross-check. It means that maybe they turn it in similarity index. Dia akan lihat misalnya you copy paste tidak paper ini dari yang lain. Kalau misalnya more than 40%, 41% and above itu adalah copy paste, maka dia akan reject. Dan 30 sampai dengan 40 mereka akan masih memaafkan, ask you to rephrase. Kalau 20 ke bawah dia akan terima. So language, dia akan lihat whether the language can read or not. Sometimes that they write it in English but we don't understand at all what is the content. Itu very important. So that's why the first thing that you do is preliminary review by the chief editor. If these three doesn't match the journal, so it means that they will reject it. Okay, they will reject it. If it is what we call it, you fulfill all the scope, the cross-check and the language, so they will ask for review. So normally in the preliminary review, it will take about 1 to 2 weeks. Okay, the two review pertama, we call it preliminary review. 1 sampai 2 minggu. So jangan berharap paper kita dikirim sekarang, minggu depan sudah publish. Berarti jurnal tersebut jurnal abal-abal. Okay, that's the most important thing. Terus kita akan lihat bahwa di peer review berapa lama diperlukan. Biasanya dia akan memerlukan, karena reviewers ini kita tidak dibayar. Mereka adalah volunteer, prop yang dari luar negara dan sebagainya. Mereka akan memakan waktu 4 until to 12 weeks, 4 sampai 12 minggu untuk mereview paper tersebut. Nah, bayangkanlah kalau misalnya 4 minggu itu sudah 1 bulan. Kalau 12 minggu, maknanya itu adalah 3 bulan untuk mereview satu paper. Karena it's just only voluntary job. Oke, setelah reviewers mereview selama 4 sampai 12 minggu, baru dia kembalikan kepada editor. Kalau diterima, it means that you just need to revise a little bit, maybe suggestions from the reviewer. Tapi kalau tidak diterima, paper akan direview oleh the second reviewer. Nah, kalau the second reviewer, dia akan makan waktu 4 sampai 12 weeks juga. Nah, kalau misalnya kita di review pertama dan di review ada juga review kedua, maka di situ saja review saja sudah makan waktu sekitar 6 bulan. Oke, kalau dia diterima, they will ask you to pay the publication fee, and they will send you the letter of acceptance. And after that, baru di edit dan editing language dan juga layout. Oke, editing language dan juga layout. Kalau di reject, dia akan inform bahwa your paper doesn't meet our standard qualifications, quality of the articles. Nah, tapi kalau diterima, mereka akan suruh bayar, if any, kalau ada ya, bayarannya dia akan minta bayaran. Kalau tidak ada, mungkin akan langsung kepada editing and layout. Okay, editing and layout. Kalau editing, it means that the language editing, and then also the layout editing, the format. Okay, and after that, setelah dicek, they will ask you to do final check. Kalau sudah diedit based on the format, and then also the layout also sudah, language-nya juga sudah di proofread, sudah bagus dan semua, they will ask you to check final draft. Okay, after the final draft, and then after that you submit it again, and then it will be online published. Nah, kalau sudah publish online, kalau if you need the hard copy, you need to contact them, or maybe it's based on the payment. Okay. And then upon request, extra charge. Normally dia akan minta bayaran lebih kalau ada, kalau mau printed. Kalau sekarang ini kita tidak perlu printed ataupun yang hard copy. Normally kita yang online publish sudah cukup karena kita boleh print sendiri. So this is actually the flow in the what we call it article, journal article publishing. They start from the submissions until to the publish. It means that it will take about like maybe 6 to 12 months, especially for maybe index it in Scopus or WOS. It will take longer than that. I have one article submit 2021 and until now have not been published, still in the final stage, maybe for this month. So it means that, can you imagine that it will already be 2023 now? So I submit the article is 2021. So it has already been 2 years, has not yet been published. So this is the flow of that. Okay. So what is actually the reviewers or the editor view? What they want to see from your article? This is very important. This is the good strategy for you in order for you to get your article published, especially for international journals or for Scopus or WOS indexed journal. For the first, what they want to see is the topic and scope. So make sure that the articles that you submit is to the related topic to the journal. Let's say the journal is World Journal of English Language. So it means that the article is about English language. Can be teaching English, can be English literature, can be English linguistics, no problem at all, as long as related to English studies. So that's why the topic and scope. So what about that? It is about like maybe is Aceh language, and you submit to World Journal of English Language. Of course, they will ask you to revise, and the data will not be related to, so that's why we need to modify sometimes. Okay. So this is the first is title and abstract. Is we need to see the topic and scope. They will see it from the title and from the abstracts. And next is structure and organizations. So see the article's guidelines, whether they are following IMRAT or whatever structures they are asked you to do. So follow that. Research-based article. So there should be introductions, or there is literature review or not. So follow their guidelines. If there is no literature review, so just put it in the introductions, combined together. Okay. So topic, scope, structure, organizations, and then format. Format, it means that journal article guidelines. So go to the article guidelines, what font they are using, what style they are using, what space they are using, and so on. There should be in the journal guidelines. So don't ask about the what we call it, the layout of the article, because the layout of the article normally will be done by the layout editor or manuscript editor. You don't need to put exactly using the format, using the template, okay, using the template of the article, because to put it in the template, it is the works of the editors, not you as an author. The authors, what you need is just only follow the guidelines. That's the format that we are, what we call it, informed about. Okay, next is content. So topic and scope, structure, organization, format, and then content. Content, originality, language style, number of words. This is very important. Originality, language style, number of words. So what are they? For example, is originality. So originality, it means that similarity index 20% and below. If you have already done your writing or your article, so check it using Turnitin, okay, or other similarity checker. Okay, so check with Turnitin, then you will see the result. How many percent? So it should be 20% and below. Nah, kalau dia 20, 30 ataupun 30, 40, mungkin the journals will ask you to paraphrase. Okay. Nah, tapi kalau 20%, it means that your article is original. It's written by you. You didn't copy paste it from the others. Okay. And then sufficient number of authors with the research projects, maximum 5 authors. Normally, I will suggest one article only maximum 5 authors. Hanya 5 penulis saja. Kenapa? I can see many articles. Dia researchnya biasa saja. It means that it's just only classroom action research. Tetapi penulisnya ada 10. Itu sufficient atau tidak? Of course, it's not sufficient. Kalau if I'm the editors, saya akan tolak tulisan tersebut. Okay, it's not sufficient. Hanya banyak yang tumpang nama. They are not doing anything, they just put their names there. Nah, itu originality is questionable. Itu tidak boleh. Okay, itu ethic of publications. Okay, next, not under review or consider for publications in other journals. Okay, so you can submit actually your articles to many journals before it review, sebelum di review. Tapi kalau you submit to journal A, and then the journal A already been informed, kepada authors bahwa paper sudah melepasi preliminary review dan sekarang sudah under review. So sudah under review, it means that your article is already 60% accepted. The scope and so on sudah lepas. So it means that another 40% from reviewers. So that's why kalau sudah di-review, tidak boleh lagi disubmit kepada jurnal yang lain. Dia akan menyalahi kode etik of publications. Tapi kalau sebelum di-review, you can submit it to many articles, to many journals. Once you get the confirmations, you have to withdraw from the others. Karena nanti mereka tidak mau setelah di-review, and then you withdraw from the articles. Karena mereview itu tidak mudah. And then itu menggunakan experts dan mereka tidak dibayar. Okay, so that's the most important thing from originality, similarity index, sufficient number of authors, and then not under review. Language, a free error of grammar. That's why I ask you to ask proofreader to proofread your article. Even though you are doctorate professor dalam English, tapi after writing, after finishing your article, ask someone to proofread. Error is accepted if original meaning is not violated. Oke, kalau salah-salah grammar sedikit, yang seharusnya ada S, tidak ada S, for example, right, subject and verb agreement. Tapi kalau dia mengganggu meaning, violated the meaning, dia akan di reject. Because sometimes that our language, we just convert it from our local language to English. So we are using English language, but the content is more like the style is our first language. Itu sangat susah. Okay? And then free error of spelling. Make sure that jangan ada spelling error. Okay, that's why there are many tools now that you can use to check all the grammar, like Grammarly, right? Like maybe Microsoft Word, Grammar Checker. There are so many, so you can check on that. And then consistency of the language style. This is very important. Consistency of language style. Kalau you dah guna British English start from the beginning, so use all British English. Let's say penulisan organizations using S, not Z. It means British English. So all those things that start from the beginning until to the end you have to use British English. Jangan nanti di introduction you are using British English, in the content you are using American English. No. So you're supposed to follow which one. So it means that consistency of the language style. If you are using British English, so use all British English. If you are using American English, so use all American English. This is very important because some of the editors or reviewer, they are very sensitive. Okay, so do standard on that. Okay, number of words. Normally for the research-based article, you need to write down 5,000 to 7,000 words. Okay, that's normal for the research-based article. But this depends on the targeted journal guidelines as well. Okay, the targeted journal guidelines. So if they ask you 4,000, so you need to know which one are you going to remove and so on. Okay, but number of words normally for the research-based article, it's minimum 5,000, but maximum it depends. But the normal way is 7,000 words. Okay. So this is the example of the Turnitin. If you haven't seen any, right? So if you see that, from where did you take it? So it will be found. That's why untuk adik-adik yang degree, jangan copy paste. Ketika buat thesis, ketika buat skripsi, jangan copy paste dari yang lain. Karena dia akan ditemukan di mana you take it, the articles. Okay, so please write down it by yourself. Okay, similarity index 40% above, biasanya jurnal akan reject terus. Maknanya you hanya copy paste kebanyakan daripada konten. So if 21% to 40%, mungkin they ask you to paraphrase, kurangkan lagi. So 21% and below, it will be accepted, diterima. Okay. Okay, so this is the tools that you need for your academic writing. Turnitin to check the similarity index, Grammarly to check your grammar. If you are not confident enough to write down by yourself, or maybe you can ask Proofreader, but you can check as well in Grammarly. And then you can use Mendeley as well for your references for APA style. I think using Mendeley it will be easier for you. And DOI and so on, I think that's a cross-check to find out the DOI for your references. Okay, so those are the tools that you need to master with. Turnitin, you have to have one. I think Turnitin now can be, you can buy it through online as well. Okay, or Grammarly as well, you can ask someone to check it, or maybe you can be a member of Grammarly, or maybe you can subscribe from Grammarly, and Mendeley same as well. So all those tools that you can get it easily for nowadays. Okay, so the format of the article, journal article guidelines. So you can go to the guidelines directly on how actually you need to write down the article, because each of the journals, they have their own guideline. Okay, so this is a review result normally. So you can, this is the preliminary result, revise and submit again for the next step. Relevance, originality, quality, comment from the chief editor. So normally they will give you like this. Okay, and you read down. Okay, so you read the paper, I mean the articles, and then you write down what are actually that you need to revise, and then what we call it, you have to improve your articles based on the suggestions from the chief editor. Okay, and then this is the result of the review. Verifies according to the comments and resubmit. So normally resubmit after major revisions. So this is the acceptable and unsuspected. So this is all the result. So this is the comment. So you have to follow the comments. Okay, and some of them, they put it directly in the article. For example, here, which studies, who studies, right? So this is very important to give a feedback. So like say these issues, because using this, right, these issues, so refers to the editors or maybe the reviewer doesn't know. This word refers to which, right? And so this is very important. So you have to comment. You have to, what we call it, give feedback to the comments here. Okay, the same thing. So this is the criteria of accepted article. So novel and creative research methodology, new and important research finding, scientific quality, experimental design and methodology, clarity of presentations, importance in the scientific world. So this is actually the criteria. But on how are we going to select the journals, this is very important as well. For the first is deciding the journal for publications. Okay. Okay, deciding journals for publications. Kalau kita sudah menulis, right? If you have already written your article, done. So the things that you need to see, things to consider for selecting journals. Number one, publication purpose. What is the purpose of your publications? It is for you to get your title as a prof. It is for your doctorate, or this is your for master degree, or this is only for your apa nama dia KPI ya, atau mungkin untuk naik pangkat ataupun laporan setiap semester. Okay, or it is for research grant. So you have to see what is the purpose, because we don't want you to be what we call it too ambitious to publish. Let's say you are degree and there is no requirements for you to publish in Scopus Index Journal, but you submit it to Scopus Index Journal, and you will end up with frustrated. So see the purpose first. Number two, available time. Because each of the journal, they have timeline on how to publish that from submission until to publications. Maybe like for Scopus and WOS journal or Thomson Reuters Index, processing time is 8 to 12 months. So it is enough for you or not? So you need to see the available time. And the number three, publication fee. You see the publication fee. Some of them, there is 400, 600 USD. Until now, like WGL journal, so they are now 1,000 USD. So are you going to publish with that publication fee or not? So you have to consider as well. Okay, journal ranking and impact factor. You have to see whether Q1 to Q4, ISI, ERA, DOAJ, Google Scholar is enough for you. So need to think about the ranking and impact factor. And the number five, level of the journal, national and international or local. So which one is required to you? Okay, suitability of the disciplines, art, language, humanity, and so on. So if you are doing it in the English language teaching, so try to find out the journals that related to your study. Okay, don't submit to the other journal. Let's say that your article, it is about English language teaching, but you submit it to political science, for example. So of course that it will be rejected. How to find impact factor and rank for a journal? Journal citation report, JCR, impact factor for ISI Thomson Reuters. And Scopus CIMAGO journal ranking, so you can check there. Journalists from reputable organizations, CRA Australia. Example was Scopus ranking based on the CIMAGO journal ranking, so you can see Q1, Q2, you can see in this website. Okay, you can see which ranking are you going to submit. And go to the respective index such as ISI Index, DOAJ, Scopus, Clarivate, and Journal Index Copernicus. It depends whether they are there or not. So you can check it there. Okay. So this is very important to decide what kind of journal and then what kind of rankings for the journal that you need to submit, because it's actually to see your available time, your money as well, and then also what we call it, your achievement for that, and what is the purpose of that. Okay, it's very important. For example, maybe propose a minimum index needed for professor. Normally, for those who are going to be a professor, they requires like maybe Scopus and WOS, Web of Science or Terms and Filters. And then doctorate, for now, actually in Indonesia is Scopus, especially for University Sumatera Utara and University Negeri Medan. I think they ask for Scopus. Right, for master degree is DOAJ index and maybe Sinta 2 or Sinta 1. I'm not sure how, but this is just an example. And this is the queue. You can see that language teaching Q1, this is the queue. You can take it from Simago Journal Counseling Rank. A professor applications Q1 to Q3. Okay. And then what is actually a major reasons for your article to be rejected? For the first, that plagiarism or similarity index 40% and above. Okay, when you check it and you submit 40%, of course that the article will be rejected automatically, because journal will not publish the article if it is the similarity index is 40% and above. Okay, and then the study is just confirmations of previous research, example, not novelty. Means that the gap of the research doesn't really clear that. Okay. And then the other thing is poor experimental design and methodological problem. Okay, it means that the methodology is not clear. And there is no matching between the methodology and the findings. You say that in the methodology, you are using qualitative study, for example, but in the contents, you are presenting a data from questionnaire or it is quantitative study. So be careful on that. Okay, the rest is targeted journal is not suitable. Okay, the targeted journal is not suitable. It means you are from ELT, but you submitted to political science. Of course, you will not be accepted. Grammar and stylistic errors. So many errors in style and so many errors in grammar, of course, that it will be rejected as well by the chief editor. And weakly written or presentations and target language and wrong interpretations of data. Wrong interpretations, be careful. When you are going to interpret the data, let's say 0.02, the results of the findings using the SPSS test, how do you interpret that? It is significant or not? So that once be careful, don't make a mistake, because if you do a mistake, of course, it will be rejected. Okay, so those are the reasons normally why your paper is rejected. Plagiarism study is just only confirmation the previous one. Experimental research and the methodology is not clear. The target journal is not related. The grammar and stylistic is very poor. And then weakly written as presentation and wrongly interpret the data. Okay, so we need to avoid this. Okay, so I think that's all for 2 hours discussions for today, or sharing sessions. I'm sure that you have questions, or maybe there is something that you need to know more about the academic writing. So what we call it, our discussions will be open for discussions. Okay, and for Q&A session, so I give it back to the moderator. So thank you so much.
Okay, Mr. Dedi Sanjaya, thank you so much for the very informative and very rich materials. You give a very systematic, the rules, the language choice, and all the presentation, the explanation is very important for us to follow, to make a very good scientific writing. Okay, now we come to Q&A session. I will give 2 person wanna ask. Maybe the first is Miss Irma Dewi.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I think it's so amazing explanations about the scientific writing. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Miss Irma, as one of the lecturers in this university at the UNSAM. I really surprised that you said before your lectures is Prof. Amrin. So we have the same lecturer, Mr. Amrin, as my advisor at my Pasca Sarjana.
Yeah.
Okay. I think so many questions that I would like to ask for you, because it is so interesting topic, right? First of all, I look at the first slide that you share for us before. It is about acknowledgement, right? Okay. How about if the acknowledgement itself? I think you said that acknowledgement is important, and then how about if we just use by our own funding to do the research? It is important for us to write down at the acknowledgement, or we ignore. Okay. And then the second question, you said that any receptive expert feedback. And then how we can get the receiving expert feedback itself? When we can get that? After we apply the article or before? And then, or we should make a peer review first to the expert that we know, or how? And then I think because when we want to apply the Scopus article, I think it's so difficult for me, especially because we should create 8,000 words till 10,000 words. I think that's all. Thank you, Mr. Sanjaya.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the questions. For the first is about the acknowledgement. If your research is coming from research fund or research grant, yes, it is important for you to put it in your article that your research is funded by maybe Ministry of Higher Education, or maybe your university, or maybe any other what we call it NGO that supports your article or your research. So you need to put it there. Okay, that's for the acknowledgement. But the things that I put that as an acknowledgement, it means that when you publish your article and it is already been searched to many audience in the world, so you will get acknowledgement. For example, the acknowledgement that you get, the people will cite your article. That's acknowledgement for you. And then your name in the words will be listed. There is now one of the, what we call it, website that put the rankings of the scientists. So now people register for that website because they want to be listed, the top 100 scientists in the world, something like that. So from where that one is from the acknowledgement of your articles. Let's say many people cite your article, so your name will be up and up. So that's the things that the acknowledgement that I am informed in that slide actually. Okay. And then the other things that you say, it is about the feedback, right, from the others. Yes, it is after publications. So before you publish, yeah, of course, there is a feedback from the reviewers that it means the systematic way to publish your article to become scientific. If there is no reviewers, it means that you just publish, we cannot call it scientific because there is no systematic way to publish that. So that's why we need reviewers. But once it is published, when the people see that, when you publish it in Scopus Index Journal, for example, and then it will be set to over the world, and many experts will see your article. If they are similar with you, with your what we call it, with your study, maybe they will contact you. For example, what I have done, I have published my article related to live learning for the writing, and it is published in TESOL International Journal. Rod Ellis see my article, and then he contact through Dr. Paul, the chief editor of the journal, contacted me and then asking to do webinar together. So it means that there is a feedback for them to make our names to be internationalized because it's similar result and so on. This is actually the functions of the publications. Let's say if I didn't publish that, it means there is no feedback from other expert. So I myself is just only seperti kata bawa tempurung. Right, but when we publish that, so the other expert will see, even they want to do research together with you. So that's what I mean in the beginning of my slide. Okay, so hopefully that it is clear for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Dedi Sanjaya. Is it clear, Miss Irma?
Yes, I think so clearly. Thank you so much, Mr. Sanjaya.
Okay, welcome.
Okay, is there any question? Any other question? Because the material is very, very clear and you can explain it in very, very detail. So we get so many information and then we need action. No more question, but we need action, I think. Okay, Mr. Dedi Sanjaya, thank you very much. And then we go to the closing remarks. Please, Miss Irma Dewi Ista.
Okay, first of all, I would like to say we really appreciate for this discussion today that really worth it for us, especially for me as the lecturer and for all of the friends lecturers here that want to apply their Scopus research, and then for the student that want to apply their publication. And maybe someday we can apply our Scopus article to your journal, maybe if you apa ya, jika Bapak tidak keberatan. And then maybe if you don't mind, you can be our reviewer at our journal maybe someday.
Sure.
And you can be our reviewer of our Scopus paper maybe later on. And then we hope that someday we can make any further cooperations with Mr. Sanjaya. Thank you so much, Mr. Sanjaya. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay. Okay, one. Fine. 2. Okay. Yep, thank you. Must be attendee here, and a big thank you for Mr. Sanjaya. We will finish the next station, maybe the next event, and for the attendee, don't forget to fill the forms today, and we will send the certificate. Okay, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Dedi. What an insightful. Don't forget to fill the attendance